Hello students, welcome to Read MedPrep Academy channel. Today in Genetics, in Principles of Inheritance and Variation Part 3, we are going to discuss about sex-linked inheritance. What is meant by sex-linked inheritance? The inheritance of a trait that is determined by a gene located on one of the sex chromosomes is called sex-linked inheritance. Sex-linked inheritance is the inheritance of characters through sex-linked genes. A human female has 23 pairs of chromosomes. 22 pairs of chromosomes are autosomes and one pair of chromosome is sex chromosome. A human male has 22 similar pairs and one pair consisting of two chromosomes that are dissimilar in size and structure. The 23rd pair in both the sexes is called sex chromosome. The female has two X chromosomes, XX. The male has one X chromosome and a Y chromosome. When you take the mother, it has two X chromosome and the father has one X chromosome and one Y chromosome. The female child inherits one X chromosome from the mother and one X chromosome from the father. The male child inherits one X chromosome from the mother and one Y chromosome from the father. What are sex-linked genes? Genes present on the different region of the X or the Y chromosomes are called sex-linked genes. What are X-linked genes? The genes present in the differential region of the X chromosome are called X-linked genes. The X-linked genes have no corresponding alleles in the Y chromosome. There are 1600 genes on the X chromosome which determine certain characters like ichthyosis, Duchenne muscular dystrophy, retinosis pigmentosa, night blindness, ocular albinism, absence of sweat glands, X-linked cleft palate, testicular feminization, split hand or foot deformity, fragile X chromosome, hemophilia, color deficiency or colorblindness. What are Hollandric genes? The genes present in the differential region of Y chromosome are called Y-linked genes or Hollandric genes. The Y-linked genes have no corresponding allele in the X chromosome. The Y-linked genes inherited along the Y chromosome and they phenotypically expressed only in the male sex. The Y chromosome contains 70 to 200 genes. Example, the stature and the height promoting genes, the sex determining region of the Y chromosome which promotes for the testis determining factor, the skeletal abnormalities, the genes that promote the spermatogenesis. Why sex-linked traits are common in males? Sex-linked inherited traits are more common in males than in females because males are hemizygous and therefore express the trait when they inherit one mutant allele. Because a male only has to inherit one recessive allele in order to get a sex-linked trait, and a female has to inherit two recessive alleles in order to acquire the sex-linked trait. That means the female has to have two doses of the recessive allele, whereas the male has to have one recessive allele to express the phenotypic character. Which part of the sex-linked genes do not undergo pairing? The X-linked and the Y-linked genes in the differential region, that is the non-homologous region, do not undergo pairing or crossing over during meiosis. The inheritance of the X or the Y-linked genes is called sex-linked inheritance. You can see in this that the lower part of the X and the Y chromosome are homologous regions which contain similar genes, whereas the upper part of the chromosome of the X has X-linked genes which is non-homologous to the Y chromosome which has Y-linked genes in the non-homologous part. Some examples of inheritance of X-linked genes are red-green color blindness or daltonism, hemophilia, Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. All are few examples of X-linked gene inheritance in humans. What is hemophilia? Hemophilia is commonly known as breeder's disease, which is more common in men than in women. This hereditary disease was first reported by John Cotto in 1803. Hemophilia is caused by a recessive X-linked gene. What happens in hemophilia? A person with the recessive gene for hemophilia lacks a normal clotting substance, that is the thromboplastin in the blood. Hence, even a minor injury can cause continuous bleeding leading to death of the individual. Here you can see a normal individual, when the blood vessel is injured, the blood leaks out, but the blood clots immediately in a healthy condition. Whereas in hemophilia, when the blood vessel is injured, the blood continuously flows and does not clot. This can result even in the death of the individual because of severe bleeding. Who carries the hemophilia genes? The females are the carriers of the disease and would transmit the disease to 50% of the sons, even if the male parent is normal. Now, to depict the diagram about the inheritance of the hemophilia, you can see that the female who is an unaffected female carrier, it has a X chromosome with a capital H, which is a normal gene, and X chromosome with a recessive allele, which is represented by a small h. It produces gametes. One gamete is normal, X to the power of capital H, and the other, which has the X chromosome, has the recessive allele of hemophilia. In an unaffected male which has a X chromosome with a capital H allele and a Y chromosome, they produce a gametes with the sperm X with capital H and a Y. So the sperms are normal, whereas one of the X has the recessive allele of hemophilia. When the offspring genotypes are formed, the unaffected female is formed with X and X with normal alleles of hemophilia, where it is not a carrier and the female is not affected, and one of the female is unaffected but it is a female carrier because it has the recessive allele of hemophilia, and the unaffected male is there, and there is a hemophilic male with a small recessive allele for hemophilia. So capital H is represented as the normal blood clotting allele, whereas small h represents the recessive allele for blood clotting for hemophilia. What is the pattern of inheritance in hemophilia? The pattern of inheritance is crisscross pattern of inheritance. For example, take the study of the inheritance. The father has hemophilia and the mother is not a carrier. Then the offspring that is formed, they will have a son with no hemophilia. They may have a daughter who is a hemophilic carrier. They may have a son who will not have hemophilia, and they will have a daughter who will be a carrier of hemophilia. That means 100% of the sons will not be having hemophilia, whereas 100% of the daughters will be the carriers of the gene of hemophilia. Now look at this inheritance. The father has no hemophilia, the mother is a hemophilic carrier. So the offspring that is formed, the son has no hemophilia, the daughter is a hemophilic carrier, the son has hemophilia, and the daughter is not a carrier. That means 50% of the daughters are the carriers and the 50% of the sons are the sufferers. You take this inheritance where the father has hemophilia, the mother is a hemophilic carrier. So the son has no hemophilia, the daughter is a hemophilia carrier, the son has hemophilia and the daughter also has hemophilia. That means 25% of the offspring is normal and 25% of the offspring is a carrier. 50% of the offspring are the sufferers. Now going to color blindness. What is the inheritance of color blindness? In human beings, a dominant X-linked gene is necessary for the formation of color sensitive cells, the cones. The recessive form of this gene is incapable of producing color-sensitive cone cells. So, who will have color blindness? A homozygous recessive females. So, x to the power of C, x to the power of C. Homozygous recessive male, x to the power of C and Y, are unable to distinguish the red and the green color. Here you can see that the people will not be able to identify this number 74. Now, inheritance of color blindness. Inheritance of color blindness can be studied in the following two types of marriages. A marriage between a colorblind man and a normal vision woman. A marriage between a normal vision man and a colorblind woman. Now, going to the marriage between a colorblind man and a normal vision woman. This marriage will produce normal vision male and female individuals in F1 generation, but the females are the carriers of the disease. Here you can see the normal female producing normal gametes. A colorblind male which has the allele in the X chromosome transfers the allele to the female, and the female that is born in the F1 generation is the carrier, and the male is normal in the F1 generation. In the marriage in the F1 generation, the marriage between a F1 normal vision carrier woman and a normal vision male will produce one normal vision female, one carrier female, one normal vision male, and one colorblind male in the F2 generation. Here you can see a carrier female producing gametes, one gamete being normal, the other gamete having the allele for the color blindness. And a normal male will produce gametes of normal X chromosome and one with Y chromosome. The F2 generation will produce a normal female, a normal male, normal female but a carrier, and a colorblind male. Crisscross inheritance in color blindness. Colorblind trait is inherited from the male parent to his grandson through the carrier daughter, which is an example of crisscross pattern of inheritance. Marriage between the normal vision man and a colorblind woman. If the colorblind woman x to the power of C, x to the power of C having the alleles marries a normal vision male XY, all F1 sons will be colorblind and daughters will be normal vision but carriers. For example, you can see that the colorblind female having the alleles of x to the power of C, x to the power of C will produce both the gametes which have the colorblind allele, and the normal male will produce normal gametes. The fusion of these gametes in the F1 generation will form normal but carrier females and colorblind males. That means 50% are carrier females and 50% are colorblind males. Marriage in F1 generation. Marriage between F1 carrier female with a colorblind male will produce normal vision carrier daughter, colorblind daughter, normal vision son, and a colorblind son in the F2 generation. You can see in this picture the normal but carrier female which has one allele for color blindness will produce gametes with one egg having the colorblind allele and one normal egg, whereas the colorblind male will produce one X sperm with a colorblind. Normal but carrier female produce gametes with one colorblind allele x to the power of C and one normal gamete, and a colorblind male will have sperm with X chromosome colorblind allele and a Y chromosome sperm, and the F2 generation will produce normal but carrier female, normal male, colorblind female, and a colorblind male. When both the parents are colorblind, the father as well as the mother, the 100% probability of sons being colorblind and 100% probability of the daughters being colorblind. Inheritance of X-linked genes is over. Now we'll go to the inheritance of the Y-linked genes. Genes in the non-homologous region of the Y chromosome are inherited directly from the male to the male. Y-linked inheritance, the pattern is very peculiar. Maleness is a Y-linked trait. Y-linked traits passes through the Y chromosome from the father to the son only. Such traits cannot pass to the daughters because the daughters or the females do not inherit the Y chromosome. All sons of an affected father are affected by a Y-linked trait. SRY gene on a Y chromosome determines the maleness in man. It is a male sex switch which triggers developmental process towards maleness after the 6-week pregnancy. Y-linked inheritance in hypertrichosis. In humans, the Y-linked or holandric genes for hypertrichosis pinnae oris. That is a condition where there is excessive development of hairs on the pinna of the ear. They are transmitted directly from the father to the son because the males inherit the Y chromosome from the father. You can see in this the hair around the ear. In this pattern of inheritance, the females are normal and the males are the sufferers. The females do not have the alleles for the inheritance of the disorder, whereas the males with the hypertrichosis, the allele is present only in the Y chromosome. So the transmission occurs only to the males because the males receive the Y chromosome from the father. Are females affected in Y-linked inheritance? Females inherits only the X chromosome from the father and not the Y chromosome. Hence, the females are not affected in Y-linked inheritance. So today, in the Principles of Inheritance Variation Part 3, we have discussed sex-linked inheritance, X-linked inheritance, hemophilia and colorblindness, Y-linked inheritance like hypertrichosis. Thank you very much. Kindly subscribe, like, share and comment the channel Read Med Prep Academy. Log on to www.readmedprepacademy.com. Our Facebook ID is Read Med Prep Academy. Our email is readmedprepacademy@gmail.com. Kindly post your questions in the comment box. We will reply with appropriate answers. Thank you very much.